To use your Receptor without Uniwire and Logic Pro requires some setup. You will need a MIDI routing device, like the MIDI Man featured in this video, to send MIDI from your DAW to your Receptor. You will also need a recording interface for high-quality audio recordings, but for now, I will use the built-in input on my Mac Mini for demonstration purposes only. First, you will need to connect your MIDI routing device to your Receptor and computer. If this is your first time using your MIDI device, make sure the necessary drivers are installed. Next, connect your outputs of the Receptor to the recording device that you're using. It is worth noting that if you're using a MIDI keyboard, you will want to connect it to your computer to capture the MIDI notes rather than connect it to your Receptor. Before we get into Logic, I'm going to load some instruments on my Receptor. With the instruments loaded, we will need to set the appropriate MIDI channels to send and receive on. To do this, click the MIDI box in the bottom right-hand corner of the synth channel. In the Synth MIDI settings window, I'm going to set my first channel to listen on channel 1 and map to channel 1. My second channel will then listen on channel 2, but map to channel 1. My third instrument will listen on channel 3 and map to channel 1. We map to channel 1 because by default, most instruments are listening for any incoming MIDI data on channel 1. If we were to map a channel as through, our synth may not play if it is not set up to play on the appropriate channel. Now it's time to set up Logic. Click the plus button to add a new channel. Make sure that you select External MIDI. If the library window does not open automatically, you can click the Media button in the top right corner of Logic. In the Library tab, look for your MIDI device and assign the appropriate MIDI channel like so. Add as many MIDI channels as you have instruments, and make sure that each one is on a corresponding channel to the instrument on your Receptor. The last thing we need to set up is an audio channel to hear our Receptor on. Click the plus button again. This time, add an audio channel. I'm setting the format to stereo since I'm sending a stereo output to my input. Make sure the correct input is selected or else you won't be able to hear anything. Once the audio channel has been created, click the I or R button to listen to all incoming audio.